Hi, this is Michael Anthony Peroutka, Anne Arundel County Councilman for District 5, analyzing Bill number 8614. The public hearing and vote on this bill took place on January 20th, 2015. Now, this is an ordinance for the purpose of accepting a grant and for transferring appropriation of funds from the contingency account of the Chief Administrative Officer over to the Fire Department. So let's go through our 10 questions. Question 1 is designed to determine if the bill is consistent with the U.S. Constitution. Well, I believe that it is. The authorization and the power to act regarding public safety at the state and the county level is derived from the 10th Amendment. Question 2 asks if the bill conforms to the Maryland Constitution. Again, I believe that it does. Article 43 in the Maryland Declaration of Rights authorizes the state to act regarding the general amelioration of the condition of the people. Question 3 asks whether the bill conforms to the Anne Arundel County Charter. And since Section 545 of the County Charter establishes the Fire Department as an operating department in the executive branch of the County Executive, I see no problem here. Question 4 asks whether the proposed legislation is in accordance with biblical standards for law and government. Well, now, assuming that emergency medical services and firefighting are a legitimate function of the civil government, it is a good thing to provide equipment to firefighters which will enable them to save lives in burning buildings without negatively impacting their own health by breathing in the dangerous toxins in the air when they are rescuing others or protecting property. Question 5 asks if the legislation negatively impacts citizens' rights. This legislation funds the purchase of new breathing equipment for the fire department personnel to replace functional but aging existing apparatus. Now, an actual acute emergency as defined in Section 208D did not exist, but the bill was presented as an emergency ordinance for the convenience of the Office of Budget. I believe that the frequent use of emergency ordinances violates the rights of each citizen through bypassing the requirements in Section 307, which is the legislative procedure, and the people's veto power in Section 308, which is referendum. Question 6 asks if the timeframes are sufficient for legislative review and consideration. Well, this bill was discussed at a working session, and administrative officials testified about the contents and the timeframe of the legislation, and it was agreed upon by the county executive to amend the bill and remove the emergency ordinance provisions. Question 7 asks whether the terms used in the legislation are clearly defined. Well, other than the emergency aspect, I see no problem here. Question 8 concerns personnel appointments and does not apply here. Question 9 asks whether the funds are being generated by this legislation, and I don't see that they are. And question 10 asks whether the legislation calls for spending, and if so, whether that spending satisfies a cost-benefit analysis. Now, an official from the fire department did present the cost savings which the county would receive in using the federal grant process, and the budget office answered questions relating to the time frame for the submission of the grant. Now, because of my concerns about the wrongful use of emergency procedures, I coordinated with the county executive to ensure that my concerns will be addressed in this legislation and that all future use would be carefully reviewed. In summary, I voted for this bill with the amendment striking the emergency ordinance because a normal 45-day legislative procedure would not have any negative impact on the health or safety of the fire department personnel. This bill, as amended, was passed unanimously. So I hope this review of my analysis of Bill 8614 has been helpful. This is Michael Anthony Peroutka, Anne Arundel County Councilman for District 5, and I am thanking you.